discuss. Unmute. Your volume is not coming. No, can't hear you. Remove this. Remove this headphone. There is no need. Remove it. Speak directly. No, still. Can you hear? I am not able to hear. If others are able to hear. नहीं आ रहा, volume नहीं आ रहा. Okay, I'll do it. Never mind. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप गदामह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्. वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च. हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते. ताप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये. वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे. सार्थायम अर्जुनस्यादो कुर्वन् गीतामृतं ददौ लोकत्रय उपकाराय तस्मै कृष्णात्मने नमः. Hare Krishna. So we have just started the 7th chapter. The 7th chapter is the first of the chapters of the Yoga section. And in this chapter, Krishna speaks about Jnanam and Vijnanam. In the first verse, Krishna spoke about how one will be able to know Krishna. What is the qualification to know Krishna? Krishna talks about two things. What is the qualification to know Krishna? If one is performing devotional service or if he is performing devotional practice, what he has to do? He has to revive his relationship with the Supreme Lord. And that revival of relationship is possible to the process of hearing. And how that hearing is to be done? With complete attention, with attachment. That is Maya Sakta Manata. The minds need to be attached to the subject matter of Krishna. That is the process of attentive hearing or submissive hearing. So when one accepts this process or one submits to this process, so Krishna assures what he will attain or what he will gain. Krishna says, Jnanam teham savikyam. Krishna will reveal to him both knowledge of this material world, the inconceivable relation of Krishna with this material world, how Krishna is the origin, how Krishna is the creator, how Krishna is the maintainer, sustainer. Everything in relation to this material world, Jiva, and how the Supreme Lord is the controller of both. So that is Jnana. The expansions of the Supreme Lord, the energies of the Supreme Lord is inconceivable relationship with the material. That is knowledge about this material world. And Krishna also says not only he will give the devotee his devotee only jnana, he says Krishna will also give vijnana. So jnana refers to the opulence of the Lord, his expansions, his energies, his inconceivable relation with this material world. And vijnana refers to Krishna's relation with the spiritual world or the spiritual being. So today, in the first 7.4th verse. Okay, so this Krishna will also reveal. So in 7th and 8th chapter, predominantly Krishna speaks about Jnana, his opulence, his majesty, his grandeur, and his inconceivable relation with this material world. And in the 9th chapter, Krishna will speak about Vijnana, his relation with the living entity, the spirit soul. And in the 10th and 11th chapter, Krishna will speak about both Vijnana and Vijnana. So how Krishna began? And Krishna says in the 3rd verse that such a person is very rare, who is both realized Jnana and Vijnana. Krishna says, Manushyana Sahasreshu. Kashti Dhyadati. Yadatam api siddhanam kashti ma vedi. One who knows Krishna in truth, in Krishna's absoluteness. That how Krishna is the origin, how he is the source, how he is the foundation, how he is the sustainer, maintainer, creator of both the material creation as well as the spiritual creation. So Krishna starts to speak and reveal about Jnana. First Krishna speaks about Jnana, his inconceivable relation with the material world. And Krishna began with the 7.4 verse. He spoke about 8 aspects, 8 elements. Bhumi rapo nalovayu, ham mano buddhi revacha, ahankar iti mahyam me, hinna prakriti ashtra. The first Krishna is talking about is inferior nature. Why it is inferior? Because it is unconscious. The gross material creation has 5 gross elements that we all know, called the Panch Mahabhuta. But this gross is governed by subtle. And what is that subtle? Is Mana, Buddhi and Aham. But both are material. So we will see the 7.5th verse. So Krishna will talk about another nature, which is beyond this material nature or the unconscious nature. So let us see the 7.5th verse. Apreyamitastu anyam prakritim vidhi me para jiva bhuta mahabhavo yedam dharyate jagat. So far, this 8 elements which Krishna has described, it is apara. Apara yam. So far, what Krishna has described, that is the inferior nature or the material nature. But he says there is another nature, anya. And what is that nature? That is param. Vidhi me param. Vidhi means just try to understand. There is 2 types of nature. One is called the inferior nature and the other is the superior. So far Krishna discussed about the inferior nature. Now Krishna will discuss about the superior nature. Vidhi me param. Apara, which is inferior, which is constituting about these 8 elements. And para, which is which is beyond this 8 elements. What is that beyond, which is the 8 elements? Jiva Bhuta, the living entity, the spirit soul. And what they are, and he is addressing Arjuna as Mahabahu, oh mighty arm. You don't identify yourself with the apara elements or the constituents of the apara nature. You are Mahabahu, you are mighty arm. And what this Param nature is doing, or Param Prakriti is doing, ye idam dharite jagat. It is engaged in exploiting the resources of the inferior material. So this is the Krishna says, Aparayam itastu anyam. So beside this 8 elements, which are my inferior nature, there is another nature which is Param Prakriti, which is the higher energy or the higher nature, and that is constituting of the living entities. And all these living entities, they are exploiting the inferior. All of them. Beside these, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is another superior energy of mind, which comprise the living entities. So living entity is not Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu, Ham Manor, Buddhi Revacha Ahankara. It is beyond this, who are exploiting the resources of this material inferior nature. Here, Prabhupada says in the purport, it is clearly mentioned that living entities belong to the superior nature or energy of the Supreme Lord. The inferior energy is matter manifested in different elements, as we discussed, namely earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and oxygen. Both forms of material nature, namely gross, which is 5 constituents, and subtle, which is the 3, are products of inferior nature. What is the difference of inferior and superior? Inferior is unconscious, and superior is conscious. The living entities who are exploiting these inferior energies for different purposes are superior energy of the Supreme Lord. And it is due to this energy that the entire material world functions. Because matter is already inert, it is dead. So what brings life and action in matter is the spirit soul. And this material world is a combination of both. Material world means combination of matter and spirit. The cosmic manifestation, and due to its energy that the entire material world functions. The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is moved by the superior energy of the living entity. You heard that example of a toy? In the toy, you see that there is a teddy bear and he has a big drum. And in both his hands, he has a stick. And what happens is, as soon as you switch on the button, that is the beating. The teddy bear is beating the drums. Have you seen or not? The child plays with such a toy and he's very happy. And what is he thinking? That the teddy bear is playing the drum. But actually, how the teddy bear is able to play the drum? Because of the battery which is inside it. If you take out the battery, will the teddy bear be able to play the drum? Nothing. You can do nothing. It's dead. So similarly, the superior nature, which is the living entity, when the living entity enters this material world, the material world starts to function. Energies are always controlled. The cosmic manifestation has no power to act unless it is ruled by the superior energy, the living entity. Energies, both are energy. Please try to understand. One is the inferior energy, which is inert, and the other is the superior, which is conscious. But both are energies. So if both are energies, then there has to be energetic. Because both are creations. If both are creations, then there has to be a creator. So energies are always controlled by the energetic. And therefore, the living entities are always controlled by the Lord. That is called Ishvara. So, living entity is also energy, and this material world is also. One is inferior, the other is superior. Like we have two departments of the government. We have the police department, that is also of the government. And we have the education department, that is also of the government. In the police department, how it functions, that there are police stations and there are courts and so forth. It is to rectify those who have become lawbreakers, those who break the law, or those who are called criminals. But the government also has another department, which is the education department. The ministry is there, Ministry of Education and Human Resources, HRD, Human Resource and Education. So what they do, they set up institutions, they set up institutions of excellence of academics, and they give grant and they give so much of sanction and spend so much of government funds, vast amount of money for the welfare of the people so that they can become educated. Both are run by the government. One is inferior, where the criminals are punished, and the other is where the facility is given for the citizens to become educated and contribute. But in any case, none of them is absolute. This is the problem. Both are governed by the government. Similarly, both the prakritis or both the energies, either inferior or superior, they are not absolute. They are not independent. Both are under the control of the Supreme Lord, who is the Ishvara. We all know the Bhagavad Gita has 5 subject matters. One is Jiva, the other is Prakriti, and both are controlled. Jiva is also controlled and nature is also. So who is the controller? The controller is the Ishvara or the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Absolute Lord. So therefore, the living entities are always controlled by the Lord. They have no independent existence. They are never equally powerful as unintelligent men think. The distinction between the living entity and the Lord is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:87-30 as follows. I think this is the prayers of the Vedas personified. 87 verse, 87 chapter, just find out there, Sheikh. Which chapter is this? I think it is the Vedas personified. So what the Vedas are submitting to the Lord, they are saying, Aparimita dhruvastanu yadi sarvagatas tarhina sasyate te niyamo dhruvane tarkaha ajani cha yanmayam tat avimuchya niyantra bhavet samam anujanantam yad amatam patadushtaya. That, O Supreme Eternal, if the embodied living entities were eternal and all-pervading like you. So the living entities are definitely, they are eternal. They are neither born, neither there is any death, so they are all eternal. But they are not all-pervading. So they are pointing out that if the embodied living entities were eternal and all-pervading like you, then they would not be under your control. But if the living entities are accepted as minute energies of your Lordship, then they are at once subject to your supreme control. Therefore, real liberation entails surrender by the living entities to your control. This is very important principle. That in any situation, the living entity cannot be independent. Of course, it can never be all pervading. It is only limited to the body that it has, to the gross body it has. So what is liberation here is defined that surrendering the living entities to your control, and that surrender will make them free. In that constitutional position, only they be controllers. So how the controlled can become controller? Or the possible? Will the constitutional position change? No. But when one is in his real constitutional position, he can be empowered. He is empowered. And who empowers? The Supreme Lord. And what is the criteria for empowerment? Is one's submission and surrender. To the extent one submits and surrenders, to that extent, Krishna empowers the living entity. And what is this empowerment? What is the empowerment? What is the empowerment? Please answer. Please attempt. What we are discussing. It's not something very, utopian. We are discussing for the first time. It's very basic. And you know the principle. What is the principle? That one who surrenders, I have already answered it now. So how he becomes the controller? Yes. Boliye Ravinder and Priyanka.
Prabhuji, by surrendering, Lord, he know his real constitutional position, and he know what is Supreme Lord relationship.
What is?
His relationship with Supreme Lord.
That is true. That is true. But what is the controllership Krishna is talking about? Prabhupada is talking. From being controlled, he becomes the controller. How? Very basic, very popular verse. बाकी लोग पता नहीं कहाँ खो गए, समझ में ही नहीं आ रहा है. Ramya, why your video is off? Yesterday also your video was off.
Hare Krishna Prabhu ji.
Hare Krishna. What is the answer?
प्रभु जी भगवान बोलते हैं कि मेरे भक्तों के कंट्रोल में मैं रहता हूँ, तो इन दैट वे ही बिकम्स द कंट्रोल.
In this context, what we are discussing. Yes, Dayashir bro, what is your answer?
Yes, Prabhuji. I'm also same answer, Prabhuji. Same answer I have. That Lord is controlled by his devotees.
Principle. Devi Esha Purnimai Mam Maya Duratya Mameva Ya Prapadyante Maya Metam. So everyone is under the control and grip of the external energy Maya by the three modes. And as soon as one surrenders and submits, what Krishna does? Krishna releases him from the influence. So from being controlled, he becomes the controller. Yes or no? He is not affected by the three moods. He is no longer in his bondage. He becomes free. That is real liberation. The Prabhupada is speaking here that therefore the real liberation entails surrender by the living entities to your control. And that surrender will make it. In that constitutional position, only can they be controllers. Therefore, men with limited knowledge who advocate the monistic theory that God and the living entities are equal in all respects are actually guided by a faulty and polluted opinion. So this is the conclusion of the Vedas. What was the chapter name? 87. Please answer, na?
Prabhuji, this is prayer of the personified Vedas.
Yeah, that is good. Prayers of the personified Vedas. It requires very, good amount of purity to go through this chapter. Not easy. In this chapter, the Vedas are glorifying the Supreme Lord. And to go through this chapter attentively and with interest, one has to be sufficiently renounced. You try, you try and see. You take a test. To be able to read every verse of it, it requires very good amount of spiritual elevation to go through this chapter. One of the most toughest chapter. Why toughest chapter? Because we have envy in our heart to Krishna. Cannot hear the glorification of Krishna. So anyway, so the Vedas are giving this conclusion that they are not samam. If they were samam, then they would not be anujanantam. Yad amantam mata dushtaya. That mata or that opinion is false, but is polluted. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the only controller, and the living entities are controlled by him. These living entities are his superior energy because the quality of their existence is one and the same. So the Supreme Lord has created the living entity in his own image. Like in Bible we say that God created man in his own image. So the qualities of the Supreme Lord have been also bestowed to the living entities, particularly in this human form of life. Because the quality of the existence is one and the same with the Supreme. But they are never equal to the Lord in quantity of power. This we have discussed so many times. Like a pinch of salt. A pinch of salt cannot be said equal to the sea. From sea we can have any amount of salt. But the composition of the salt, the quality of the salt will be the same. It will not be any different. If you test chemically, it will have all the properties which are there in the sea salt. And from sea we can have any amount of salt. So the quality is the same, but the difference is in the quantity. So living entity is considered to be a superior energy. So what is that quality? What is the quality of oneness between the living entity and the Supreme Lord? Yes, Ramya?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, both Supreme Lord and living entities are Satchitananda. They are eternal, they are blissful,
Yes.
and they are in knowledge.
Yes. They are conscious. Most importantly, they are conscious. The living entity are conscious, and the constitutional position, they are in full knowledge, in bliss, and of course they are eternal. While exploiting the gross and subtle inferior energy matter, the superior entity, the living entity, forgets its real spiritual mind and intelligence. So this is also very unique, that the living entity which is superior, when it comes into this material world, which is inferior, and Prabhupada says this is an incompatible situation. What is incompatible? That the spirit and matter cannot mix. The Prabhupada gives the example of oil and water. Like, can you mix oil and water? No. The oil will always come out top of the water. The Prabhupada says this is an incompatible situation. That the spirit soul cannot be compatible to this material nature which is unconscious. But what it does, this is that it tries to exploit the material nature, the gross and subtle inferior energy. And when it tries to do that, what happens is it forgets its spiritual relation. The spirit being, instead of engaging in spiritual activities, what it does, it engages in material activities. How? By trying to exploit the material resource. Please try to understand this principle. The spirit soul, when it misidentifies itself with matter, so it engages in trying to exploit matter. So it engages in material activities. So what happens is the spiritual existence and the spiritual activities come. And it forgets, of course, it forgets its relationship with the Supreme Lord. This forgetfulness is due to the influence of matter upon the living entity. But when the living entity becomes free from the influence of the illusionary material energy, he attains the stage called mukti or liberation. The same principle, Mamevaya prapadyante, maya meta taranti. And what is this liberation? That he gives up the false identification with matter and he identifies with the Supreme Spirit. So this freedom from the influence of the illusionary material energy is called mukti or liberation. This verse is very popular. Mukti hitva anitha rupa swarupena vyavasthit. So mukti means when one gives up one's false identifications or false designations. Like right now we are having, what is our identity? We don't identify ourselves as spiritual. We identify ourselves with matter. What is matter? The body. Or action in relation to bodies, or relationship in connection to body. That is what we consider ourselves to be. So it is not the truth. It is not the spiritual substance. So it is false. So when one gives up this falsity, mukti means hitva. Hitva means to give up. What to give up? Anyatha rupa. To give up all false nominations. And swarupena vyavasthiti, and be situated in one's original position. What is the original position? Being a spirit soul and having relation with the Supreme Spirit, Super Spirit. The false ego, under the influence of material illusion, thinks, I am matter. And material acquisitions are mine. His actual position is realized when he is liberated from all material ideas, including the conception of his becoming one in all respects with God. Therefore, one may conclude that the Gita confirms the living entity to be only one of the multi-energies of Krishna. And when this energy is freed from material contamination, it becomes fully Krishna conscious or liberated. So Krishna is speaking here. He is giving this knowledge. He is giving this jnana, so that the living entity does not remain in ajnana, does not continue to struggle or to remain in a frustrated state. So this awakening is being bestowed by Krishna for the jiva to accept his real situation, to accept his real position, and to give up the false position. The next one Krishna says, Etad yonini bhutani sarvani iti upadharya aham Krishna sta jagata prabhava pralayastata. So etad yonini bhutani. Etad means the two. What are the etad? Apara and para. So far Krishna has discussed. In the 4th chapter he discussed the apara, and in the 5th chapter he discussed the para. So all the living entities, yoni means who take birth, and bhutani means all the living entities. So sarvani, all of them. Iti, from where? Upadharya, from these two. From where? Para and apara. So everything which is created in this material world, they have the source from these two. What is the source? The para prakriti is the spirit soul, and the apara prakriti is the gross and material. So all created beings, now see the translation, all created beings have their source in these two natures. Of all this is material and all that is spiritual in the world. So Krishna says there are two aspects. One is from this inferior energy, which is matter, and which is the superior energy, which is spirit. Aham Krishnasya Jagata. Krishna says that I am that Krishna is the origin, or Krishna is the source. Aham Krishnasya Jagata Prabhava and Pralayastata. Prabhava means to exist or to manifest. Prabhava is coming into origin. So that is the factor is Krishna behind both matter also and spirit also. Of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both. What? The origin, Prabhava, and Pralayas, that is yours. So he is both the creator, he is the maintainer, sustainer, and he is also the destroyer of everyone and everything. Either it is spiritual or it is material, or either it is a combination of both. So there is no one or nothing which is outside his control. So this is his inconceivable relation with everyone in this material world. Everything that exists is a product of matter and spirit, as we discussed. Spirit is the basic field of creation, and matter is created by spirit. Spirit is not created at a certain stage of material development. Na jayate mriyate va kadache. That it was never born. Na jayate. Na it will ever cease to exist. Na mriyate va kadache. Nayam kutva bhavitana bhulu. That there is no date, as we are say that if there is no date of creation, then where is the date of expiry? If there is a date of origin or date of manufacture, then with the date of manufacture comes the date of expiry. So for the living entity, the spirit soul, there is no creation. The spirit soul is not created. This is what Prabhupada is explaining here. See the purpose. Spirit soul is not created at a certain stage of material development, like the so-called scientific, unscientific people. They should not be called scientists. The unscientific people, they proclaim that these spirit soul manifested at a certain stage of material development. No. From matter which is dead, a spirit or something which is live can never be. Spirit can only exist when it comes from the Supreme Spirit. Matter is already dead. Rather, this material world is manifested only on the basis of spiritual energy. This material body is developed because spirit is present within the matter. That is how we discuss the Srimad Bhagavata. Kapil Dev gives Lord Kapila, he gives a very detailed explanation that how the living entity comes into this material world. How the baby takes birth in the womb, the mother. How it is to the father. The father injects the semina, and through the semina, the living entity enters into the womb of the mother, and there the development begins. Karmana deva netrena jantu dehe upatteya stri pravishta udaram pumsa reta kanashraya. So that the material science has no clue, but they have no access of each. Because Prabhupada is saying the material body is developed because spirit is present within matter. A child grows gradually to boyhood and then to manhood because that superior energy, spirit, soul is present. Similarly, the entire cosmic manifestation of the gigantic universe is developed because of the presence of super soul Vishnu. Like the body grows because the spirit enters. And when the spirit leaves the body is dead. And no one wants to keep. Even the most close relative. When the soul leaves the body, what they want to do, they don't want to go near to the body. The body starts giving foul smell. It starts to decay. And the body is either buried or it is burnt. No one wants to keep it. The body has all the charm and all the attractiveness because of the presence of soul, the spirit soul. And as soon as the soul leaves the body is useless. It cannot be present. Similarly, the soul of this material world is the super soul or Paramatma. Lord Vishnu. It is because of the super soul that the entire cosmic manifestation is functioning. All the planets, and they are rotating, and everything is there in perfect harmony. Like till the time the soul exists in the body, everything functions very seamlessly, very perfectly. And as soon as the soul leaves, then there's nothing, no action can happen. It is dead. Therefore, spirit and matter which combine to manifest this gigantic universal form are originally two energies of it. And consequently, the Lord is the original cause of everything. So this is the point to be understood. That either it is material energy or it is the spiritual energy. The origin and the control is both with the Supreme Power. He is the foundation. He is the root. He is the source from which it has emanated. So both are his energies, and Krishna is the energetic. He is the controlling, owner of both. And consequently, the Lord is the original cause of everything. A fragment, part and parcel of the Lord, namely the living entity, may be the cause of a big sky pillar. Prabhupada gives an example to illustrate this, how to understand this. That the living entity It can create what? It can create a skyscraper, or it can create an aeroplane, or it can create a space rocket. A big factory or even a big city. But he cannot be the cause of the big universe. But can he claim that he has created the planet Earth? Or he has created the material manifestation? The cause of the big universe is the big soul. So the cause of this city or a skyscraper or a house is the small soul, the living entity. But the cause of this entire universe, this big universe, is the big soul. What Prabhupada is saying here, yeah, it is the super soul. And Krishna, the Supreme, is the cause of both the big and small soul. Therefore, he is the original cause of all causes. This is confirmed in the Katha of Upanishad, Nityo Nityana Chetanas Chetanana. And if you want to see this full verse, it is given here in the second chapter. Very important verse to understand the principle and the philosophy. It is in 2.12, if I remember correctly. In 2.12, Prabhupada, when he is explaining the difference between, yeah, so in 2.12. The full verse is mentioned here that Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. So amongst all the eternals, he is the chief eternals. Who? The Supreme Lord. Dayashil, please help that student who is sitting behind you. You should be conscious. The new student has come. How will they be able to find out? That is Nitya Nityanam. So he is the chief amongst the all eternals. And Chetanas Chetananam. So amongst the conscious, he is the foremost conscious. Now, then what is the uniqueness? Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati Kama. So among all the eternals and among all the conscious, they have so many desires. Eko Bahunam. And they have Kama, desires. So he is that one eternal or that one supreme conscious who is fulfilling the desires of all other eternals and conscious. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadhati. Tam Atmastham Ye Anupashyati Thira. And where he resides within the heart of each and every living entity. Atmastham. And how can he be seen? Who can see? Anupashyati. He can be seen in the disciplic succession by whom? One who is a Thira. You know what is a Thira? Krishna has explained in 2.1. Who is a Thira? One who knows the difference between matter and spirit and the controller of truth. So the person is a Thira. And for such a Dhira, Tesham Shanti. Shashwati Netaresham. Such a person will achieve everlasting peace. Okay. So far, any question? So Krishna is revealing his inconceivable relation with both India, particularly with the material world, and also with the living entity. That how he is the origin, he is the creator, he is the maintainer, he is the sustainer, and also here he says he is the destroyer of the world. Nothing exists independent. Everyone and everything is dependent. Ramya, your microphone is on. I thought you were asking question. Okay. See, don't assume that you know. Please come out of this illusion. Kindly try to come out of the illusion that we are covered with. Our understanding is still not clear. There may be some information that we have, which is also still not very clear, not very crisp. It is still very obscure. Yes, Manoram. Your voice is not reaching us. Microphone has some problem. Please request the super soul. Can anyone hear what Manoram Prabhu is speaking? I am not able to hear. None of you. First unmute yourself. Unmute Kareem. First unmute yourself. Why you have such a complex situation? You see, I am always hands free. Hand free, microphone free, everything free. I just straight speak and you are hearing me easily. I don't use any device. Most important is to give up all these artificial things. That day we discussed. The influence of Kali is because of artificial standards only. You give up everything which is artificial so that you can come to realize what is original. In this enamored living of artificial imposition, you will never know what is original. बोलो अरे अपना वॉल्यूम फुल करो माइक्रोफोन है ना इसमें वो पकड़ेगा नहीं आ रहा so there is no sound okay you text by surrendering to Krishna one becomes controller means one comes out from the influence of the three modes, that is one becomes controller of one's own mind. Very good. Yes very good understanding. Then he is not bewildered by the three modes. Then he is not deviated or distracted. He is not enamored by the influence of the material energy. If the influence of the illusionary energy is not there, then what is there? There is only the influence of the spiritual energy. And what the spiritual energy does, it brings the jiva closer to Krishna. And what the illusionary energy does, it takes jiva far away from Krishna. So in a way, you become controller of the material energy. You are not controlled by the material energy. If you see what does the pure devotee does, it even engages the material nature in service of Krishna. Mahadevi came to Haridas Thakur to distract him, to deviate him, or to degrade him. But what you are hearing, na? My voice is reaching you or not? Okay. It seemed as if you are struggling to hear. But a liberated soul can even engage the material energy in Krishna's service. The material energy cannot distract, cannot degrade. One becomes controller, of course. One does not become controller of Krishna. Yes, he can. He controls. Krishna is controlled by the love of his pure devotees. But here what it means is liberation. What we are discussing is that he becomes liberated from the influence of the material nature with three modes. Yesterday we were discussing. That is the Brahma Bhuta stage. When it comes to the platform of realizing who he is. Brahma Bhuta. There is na shochati na kamchati. There is no hankering and there is no craving. This never borrows, or neither is irritated. He's always sama. He's always equipoised. He's always equibalanced. Sarveshu Bhuteshu. And then he can come to the platform of Mad Bhakti Lavate. Prabhupada writes in that purport the real devotional liberation. Real liberation means to come to the platform of realizing that one's constitutional position is to serve the Supreme Personality. That is real liberation. Yeah, I think you're not convinced. Your facial expression is not. I hope my voice is reaching you. You are hearing me, I was reading Ramayana today. See, Ravan, when he died, today we are observing Dashera, and tomorrow some Grenadier Squad will be observing tomorrow, but most of the people are observing today. When Ravan was about to die, Lord Ram sent Lakshmana, Lakshmana to take discourse from him. And you know what Ravan asked Lakshmana? He said, how could I be defeated by you people? Huh? You see, our position is a superior position. He was a Brahmana. He was the son of a Rishiputra, Brahmana, a sage. And Lord Ram and Lakshmana were Kshatriyas. So according to the Varna, he was superior. And Ram and Lakshmana were inferior. Then he said, as per knowledge, he was Chaturvedi. Because he was the son of a Rishiputra who was well versed in all the Vedic literatures and all kinds of sacrifices. And he knew all the Vedas. So his knowledge was no less. It was higher in knowledge. So he gave many reasons, many ways he explained. But how he lost? Because he did not utilize it for the proper purpose. He used it for his own selfishness. And he is considered to be a demon. He is a demonic person. He was misled. Who misled it? By the influence of the three modes. So unless and until one surrenders to the Supreme Lord, he may have any number of good qualifications. There is no good qualification. Any number of qualifications. As much as resources. Ravan had so much of resources. But he lost. Because the opportunity was to engage it in the service. But he was always busy in exploit. Here Krishna is speaking here. Ye idam dharite jagat. Etad yonini bhutani. Aprayamitastu anya. Vidhi prakriti me para. Jiva bhuta mahabhav ye idam dharite. So exploitation and abuse, one has to give up. So as one, how is that possible? When one submits and surrenders. Then there is no question of exploitation. And to the extent one does not submit and surrender, then this will be there. There will only be this exploitative tendency. And exploitative tendency is self-destructive. Like we see the Ram. I'll speak about it tomorrow. I have 2 classes tomorrow. One in Chippiwada, tomorrow morning. And also one of my very old devotee couple friends. They have been calling me for many years. They are running a very successful center in Ghaziabad. So I promised them tomorrow evening I will be with them. Very fascinating. I was reading Ramayana today. I've read before also that Ravan had such merits, such resources. But he did not hear to anyone's advice, you see. He did not hear to the advice of Vibhishana. He did not hear to the advice of Malevan. He did not hear the advice of Maricha. But he heard the advice of only one. Can anyone answer? Whose advice did he hear? Ravan. Whose advice did he hear? Pradeep? Whose advice did Ravan hear?
His mind, Prabhu.
Huh? No.
His mind.
That is a very naive answer. Who will answer? Ganesh, whose advice did in the Leela, in the enacted way, whose advice did he hear?
I don't really.
Okay, I give you the chance first, Ravinder. बोलिए. Or is it Priyanka? बोलो. हाँ. बोलो with confidence.
नाना जी प्रभु
नाना का क्या एडवाइस सुना? नाना तो मानने वाले थे. Yes, Ramya, your final attempt, they have all, failed. Let me
Hare
see.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, Surpanakha.
Very good. Excellent answer. This is the right answer. This is out of hat thinking. He heard the advice of only one. That was super. And how he became interested? When Supanka started to describe the supreme beauty of Sita Devi. So what mentality is there? Exploitative. ये एकदम धारित है जगह. Was never satisfied. He heard the advice of Supanka and he agreed to fight with Lord Ram. He did not hear the advice of Mandodari. He did not. He dismissed the advice of everyone. That is the Ravan-like mind we are all carrying in Kali Yuga. So we should request Lord Ram to come and kill this Ravan which is inside. Then we can actually have the Shara and we can celebrate the Shara. This is what the Lord is speaking here. That in both, either of these two nature, he is the Prabhava and Pralayastha. He is both the origin and he is the cause of dissolution. So in any situation, in every situation, whatever we have, it is given to us for a very brief time, temporal. Till the time we exist. So we should all utilize it in this service of worship, Lord, and make this life or the temporary existence become permanent as it is, so that we can return to it. Okay. Any other discussion or any other question? You see the depth of which Krishna is speaking. As we will grow in Krishna consciousness, the verses will start to open. The real meaning will start to reflect. How Krishna is, with such munificence, he is explaining to Arjuna that anything and everything is just under his control. He is the origin. He is the creator. He is not only the creator, he will explain how he is the maintainer and the sustainer. And finally, he will be the annihilator also. Nothing else the Jiva has to do. Okay, I'll stop here. Ravinder, you call me. And Deyashil, you will reach there. Try to reach by 7:15 so that you can attend Guru Puja. Ganesh, you also come. Okay. I'm just waiting for one or two, spots to be confirmed by Purushottam. Otherwise, I would have done it today. I've given him one more day. So I will try to put it on that poster, what we can do, not to give a false promise. Okay. Thank you all very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Vijay Dashmi Utsav ki jai.